What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Death by Boost. So the rail from hell back here, we have gotten a ton of questions about it, and we want to answer those for you guys today. So let's get to it.
So we're gonna start with the meat and potatoes of this car. And Craig, go ahead and give us a walkthrough of what we got going on back here.
All right, so what we got here is an LS53. It's just got a little bit of a cam in there. Got an 8-stack, which sets this thing off. CT picked out these valve covers. These are big block style valve cover that fit an LS. Freaking perfect, CT. You nailed that one. I love them.
We've actually tricked people into thinking that this was a big block. Like, oh yeah, what kind of big block you got on there? And then no, it's not actually.
You're right.
5.3 baby.
Yep. We got a 4L60E out of a Corvette with the Corvette diff. So it's a C5 Corvette. We have a standard truck bell housing to make the tube, because everyone's like, hey, what the heck did you do here? Because a Corvette has a torque tube and the engine's in the front and the transmission's in the rear. That's all you have to do is get a different bell housing and a different flywheel, and boom, you can mate the two together.
And cost effective, because everybody knows transaxles are above and beyond expensive, especially if you get a good quality brand.
Yep.
I mean, you got yours in your other car.
Oh, yeah.
That's the what is that trans?
It's an Audi transaxle.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, you can get an inexpensive one there, but it's just not going to take a beating. Well, like in a light car, it'll take a beating.
Oh yeah. Yep.
That's what you got going on.
You lessen the weight, you put less strain on everything.
Absolutely.
All right, then to carry on with the C5 Corvette stuff, we got the entire rear subframe out of a C5 Corvette. Brakes, control arms, subframe, axles, all that came out of a C5 Corvette. And then let's go back to the engine real quick. We got some Flowmaster Super 10s on here, which make this thing sound amazing with some turbo headers.
Yes.
This is the air tank for the air ride system. We'll show more of the air ride here in a minute, but since this is already exposed, this is the fuel tank. Got this off Amazon. It has a fuel gauge built into it, so it kind of keeps some old school stuff going on where you don't have a whole bunch of gauges. It's all back here. It's
pretty bare. We were able to hide most of the wires.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. And then we'll go ahead and just finish up back here what we got going on. I'm gonna come over here real quick. So right here we got our trans cooler with a radiator and another radiator on the other side over there. So dual radiators, because this is a V8. She's hot, so she needs to be cooled down. And then let's go ahead and just start with this box right here, Cole. And I'll show them what's in this.
So everybody always asks what's in the ammo cans.
Yep. So we got 3 ammo cans on here, and there was a very handy way of hiding things on this car. And
it's a
unique.
50 BMG.
Right. That's what they were designed for. So in here, I have drawn up diagrams for the entire car, because this is a one-off car, and whoever has to work on it in the future, if there's any problems, it's all in here. And then the Holley Terminator X Max is all housed in here, so it's a nice place for it to hide, so it's not seen, because we wanted to keep this car looking old, but we mixed modern with it on top of all that. So to keep it old, we had to hide all the electronics.
Yes. So actually, you ran a lot of the air ride lines, the electronic lines, all through the tube frame, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
we tried to hide them the best we could. I mean, there's some stuff you can't avoid. So
yeah, we
tucked them. I had to modify the heck out of that harness to make it as small as I could, because the way it's designed isn't meant to be. It's meant to be a front engine car with a firewall. Then the electronics go through the firewall. Well, on this it didn't work out, because it's all exposed. So I had to modify the entire harness, had to lengthen wires, shorten wires, retape it, everything. So I'll show you the other ammo can over here. So this guy here is housing what most people would call the PDM, power distribution module. And it kind of got a little bit messy, because there was a lot of wiring in here, but I used terminal boards, and then I got relays and fuses.
Those are all custom boards.
Yeah. Which is nice, because it makes it easy to work on. As far as if you have a problem, you can just get a meter and test.
Yeah.
It's really, really convenient. So that's the PDM. And let me show you the last box, which is kind of hard to see. This is housing all the air ride components for the car. So got the entire Ritech system down in there, computer and valve body.
And their compressor right there.
Yep, and air compressor hiding right there. So you really don't see much of this stuff unless you really start looking. So we also had to improvise on the coils, because on an LS the coils are mounted to the valve cover. So we moved them down here and welded them straight to the frame, made some nice short wires. We had to custom make wires for it. Got some boots because these headers aren't stock, so they kind of touch. That was perfect. You know, CT wanted a little bit of red in the car. We couldn't really think of how to do that, so this worked as a little bit of a red accent back here, which actually leads us a little bit forward here, the seat. So Cole kicked ass on making this seat. CT wanted some division in it, but however, this car is so small, it ended up not working out so well. So we turned into a bench seat, and to be honest, it is perfect. It couldn't have been any better. But this fabric, it has red stitching in it, and it has that old school diamond look to it, which is really awesome. And then we finished that off with just some basic carpet throughout the car, which kind of deadened sound. It took a lot of the heat away, because people were commenting, have you ever been on a hot slide on a hot day? Yeah, we get that. This thing was smoking hot when it was outside because the sun would hit it. Now it's comfortable. I mean, sun on a black leather, yes, it's hot, but it's not gonna.
It's tolerable.
It's tolerable.
Whereas you have sun on black steel, and it's the metal slide you remember like when you were a kid.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you
it's terrible.
So then let's go ahead and go to this guy. So in a prior video, we talked about this steering wheel that was custom made for CT. This actually came out of his Stingray Corvette that he had given to Dr. Dre, which is very cool to think about.
Yeah, that's right. You heard Dr. Dre.
Yeah, right here we have that steering wheel, so that's very cool to think about. Then we'll come over to the gauges real quick.
Okay.
So we got 2 Holley gauges that are CAN bus driven, so they talk directly with the Holley ECU. Nice and simple. Then we got a Ride Tech handheld, so this is where you control the air ride system. And then over here we have the Holley Terminator, so you can have more gauges on here, or you can do any kind of adjustments. It's nice to have. We were gonna hide it, but to be honest, this thing doesn't have a coolant temp gauge, any of that, so he can access that through there. Those are need to know things, in my opinion, as having a car.
100%.
You need to know oil pressure, you need to know water temperature, because the last thing you want to do is overheat.
Absolutely.
So we got some motorcycle mirrors on here, which really fit the car really well, kind of gave it an old school look. Had to really improvise on this car as far as what to buy, because it's Frankenstein. We had to be creative on what we got.
And really paid homage to CT's Rat Fink, stylish with the rat rod, so to speak, that he wanted. Yeah. He didn't. It wasn't necessarily like he's like, make it look old. I want it clean. I want it to make it look old. Old styling, I should say, and kind of do that. And that's what we try to do here. And let's talk about the shifter, Matt.
Oh yes. So it's a B&M ratchet shifter, which is cool because then you can manually shift this car, and I'll show you a little demo here. So we're in park, reverse, neutral, drive, go all the way down to 1. So when you're driving, you just first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear. And then if you weren't paying attention, you keep trying to shift, it'll stop. It's got a lockout.
So you don't destroy your transmission.
Yep, so you just push on this lever, and there you go. Now you're able to go into park and reverse.
Heck yeah.
Yep. Nice simple setup over here. Got ignition switch, turn signals, and a horn. Real basic.
Heck yeah.
Then we'll carry on up front here. So this is a pedal set out of a dune buggy. I had to get a master cylinder out of a car because the one that the dune buggy was a single chamber master cylinder, and with cars you want a dual chamber in case you lose brakes on one part of the car. You'll still have brakes on the other half of the car. So it's a safety. Safety's number one.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Nothing worse than not being able to stop.
And we upgraded to disc brakes.
Yep. So this is a Volkswagen front end, Kingpin front end, and we did a disc brake conversion.
So yeah, little Volkswagen front end, and everybody's like, "Oh, the Volkswagen front end, that's crazy."
Yep.
It's like, yeah, and it actually came from the original dune buggy that we kind of started from. So that was like one of the very few pieces that we kept.
Yep.
And CT really liked that. So
yeah, it definitely keeps that old school feel to the car, having something old like this. I mean, this is older than me and Cole almost put together. So
true.
It's really nice to have. We got motorcycle headlights and motorcycle turn signals up here. They're the nicest things we can find that would fit this car being open body like it is, which worked out perfect. Steering box is original. We were gonna go rack and pinion, but we ran into an issue with the pedals, with the car being so small.
Yep.
So we had to stick with the steering box, which worked out perfect.
It's a lot of stuff that we had to fit in here, geometry speaking.
Yes.
And get everything to clear, especially the fact that we had to clear all this out for the air ride.
Yeah.
So when all your control arms and everything would go across, they would actually come in contact with other parts of the car. Yep. And then we finally figured out the geometry style that we needed.
Yep. And I don't know if anyone, I'm sure someone noticed already, this is right-hand drive.
Yeah.
That was a request by CT, so we went ahead and moved everything over and made it right-hand drive, which was pretty easy. We custom made the links to make it work out that way, which is good because they're adjustable.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing we haven't talked about is the wheels and tires.
Yeah.
So these are VMS drag racing wheels in the front.
You won't know that because we're covered.
Yep.
But there's the insides of VMS. We're not trying to cover up your stuff. It's just you had a good wheel to work with.
Oh, your wheels are perfect. I mean, I love your wheels. I have them on my car. Wrapped in Mickey Thompsons, and then we got moon discs. So that was another special request by CT, and to be honest, I had doubts about them. I've never dealt with them, but once they're on this car, I was like, dude,
it
CT,
freaking
nailed it.
It just looks perfect.
Yep. And the back wheels, sorry.
No, yeah, go for it.
The back wheels are actually C5 Corvette wheels. Covered up.
Covered up, yeah.
Yep. So a lot of people are talking crap about the rear tire, the rear wheels.
Not matching the fronts
We
and
knew
whatnot.
they were ugly.
Yeah.
But they were going away.
They're gonna work for what we need, and then now they're all pretty again.
Yep. And these are also wrapped in Mickey Thompsons.
Yes. So CT wanted to pay a little bit of respects to the Salt Flat Racers. That's kind of where he got the moon disc styling from. And I think, I mean, if you look at this thing, it just that set it off. Once you had that on there, I tell you what, there's an old thing, like my parents always told me, like, wheels make the car.
Oh yeah.
Like, and there's just a lot of truth to that. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that make the car, but if you don't have a good set of wheels and tires and stance, you're not going to freaking have anything to talk about your car. And let me tell you about stance. This thing's air ride system is nuts. You literally set this thing on the freaking ground.
Speaking of air ride, I really didn't go into all the details on the air ride. So let's go right here real quick, Cole, with the rear airbags. So these are some budget airbags with a custom mount, and then we did a custom mount on the lower control arm to make these ones work. And then the front ones, a lot of people, you don't see it. You don't know how this front end works because we modified it heavily. So these are actually airbags with shocks built in. And then to boot, since it's a Volkswagen spring front end, it was too much spring. We had to disable the lower spring completely and then change the orientation this one just a little bit to help these airbags out just ever so slightly, and it works perfect. This thing will slam to the ground and it'll raise up and it'll hold its ride height the way it's supposed to.
Absolutely. So. Yes, and you get it. Everybody's CT wanted it in the weeds, right? Yep. Well, if you haven't noticed, this car, we had to custom make a seat. We didn't really talk too much about that, but we had to custom make a seat so that you can actually sit appropriately to operate the vehicle. Now, if you look at this, it is a little bit of a challenge to get into unless you're limber like Craig here. But it's not really that hard to get into. But once you're in it, it's like you're landing in a Lazy Boy.
Oh, dude, it's so comfortable. It was comfortable before it was even padded.
Yeah, people were kind of giving us shit when they were online, and we had this thing just mocked up and we were driving it around, and it was all steel.
Yeah.
And then we had no fabric on there, no padding, nothing like that. And people were like, "Oh, it looks comfortable," you know, kind of giving us a little bit of crap. I'm like, you know what? Kind of oddly enough, it actually is comfortable.
Yeah.
Sorry, you guys probably got blinded by the light there.
Yeah, we're trying to keep the camera
out. It's a little bit early in the morning here.
Yep.
But yeah, guys, I mean, this car, it had a little hiccups and some bumps here, but to be honest with you, it's pretty straightforward.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we bent all the bar ourselves. We had our own lines designed. We drew it up beforehand.
Yep.
And it came out damn near what the picture was originally when we were talking with CT. Yeah. So I could not be happier with it. I'm gonna miss the hell out of this thing. It's we've had it for about 7 months now.
Yeah, 7, 8 months.
So I mean, so working on something that long and busting your ass on it, and then it's gonna go bye-bye. It kind of makes you a little sad, but we knew it was going that way to begin with, so this is gonna be a bittersweet. We're completed, we're finished with it, and CT gets to have all the fun with it now.
Now, another thing I want to talk to you guys, a lot of people are saying, how much does something like this cost?
There you go.
So in parts, this has been a budget build, so think of that. Budget build
with a couple of exceptions.
Yep.
And then we'll talk about those in a minute.
about $25,000 in parts.
Parts, not labor.
We're not even gonna discuss labor.
Not labor, parts.
Yep. So, and we're talking countless hours of labor, but $25,000 in parts. There was a couple exceptions, like this 8-stack.
That is not a budget.
That was $2,500 alone.
Just the 8-stack manifold.
But it was
not even the computer, just the manifold.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you look at it, that's a lot of mechanical pieces. That's 8 throttle bodies. That's 8 linkages. That's 8 stacks. Like 8-stack, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's an expensive piece, but it would not look as cool as it freaking does without the 8-stack.
Nope.
I mean, that 8-stack is just beautiful.
And
then you have the Holley system, right?
Holley system, and then after that, everything just kind of nickeled and dimed this thing to death.
It did, yeah.
A lot of things weren't expensive, but there was a lot of pieces that added up to the large amount of what it came to, which was, it was crazy.
You can sit down and make a parts list.
Yep. And
you're sitting there, and you're, like, remember, we're building this car from scratch, literally from scratch, right? We had a base frame to go off of with, but that was just to kind of have a generalized sense of space and space for where we're going to be building this and orientation.
Yep.
But you get down to things like this and you're like, how much does a battery tray cost?
Exactly.
How much does the battery tray hold down system cost? Like, that's little, that's nothing. But you have that, then you have the shifter, and then you have the cable that shifts the vehicle, and then you have the steering bar, and then you have the quick release, and
it adds up quick,
fast. And then you have the air ride.
Yep.
Now, we didn't go with a cheap system on the air ride, we really didn't, but that was going to be kind of like the backbone to this entire vehicle, so we needed it to be user friendly.
Yeah.
That was one of his goals. I want it in the weeds.
Yep.
And if you can't really drive it around in the weeds, because we all know that we pay a lot of money for plates, but it never pays off, especially here in Colorado. California, I'm sure it's a little bit better. You got some nicer cars out there, but still, you don't want to be driving down the road and smash into a pothole and blow out your ass on the bottom of this seat. So we wanted to make it user-friendly in the sense that it had pre-settings, so you have 3 presets and so on. And if you're interested in that, there's another video we have for that. But it just makes everything way more user-friendly. And then you start looking at cool things like the gas tank that we have. And we paid a little bit of homage to like the dune buggy styling that we had when we first bought the car, but we bought a new one because the new one was perfect. The other one had a couple of dings in it, and we weren't going to sit there and try to make it look perfect, because then you have the machining lines that aren't going to line up. And
I want to talk going about that, doing the right thing. So unfortunately, we went over budget by about $4 grand on this car, but in the end, we could not give CT a car that was just half-assed. So we went ahead and just took it out of our own pocket, that, you know, whatever money we were making on this thing, and we made sure it was right. So that's just being human. You gotta do the right thing. And just like he said, you know, fixing that gas tank, getting a new one. Don't even mess with it.
And then you come down and you think like, oh, he's gonna probably try to make this street legal over there sometime, right? So then you go over there and you're like, oh, well, he needs tail lights to help him out, right? To get him that much closer to that goal. A horn, a backup light. That light there. And then you have needing mirrors. So like little things to kind of help get him that much closer to his goal. And I mean, and then you have the headers, and then you have a torque converter, and so on and so on and so on. So all these pieces coming together to make what I could not have hoped to look better, but man, this thing, it turned out amazing. So if we missed anything that you guys are interested in, that we didn't talk about or in detail enough to answer some of your questions, especially if you have your own projects going on and you want to use something that we were able to make work, for instance, the transmission and whatnot, that's been a lot of questioned. And we were able to kind of answer the questions like that. Hopefully we went over enough in detail for you guys, but if we haven't, comment down below. Ask us anything. Comment, tell us what you think of the car. We love it. This thing's freaking sick as hell, guys.
And we love answering comments too. We're not that big to the point where we don't answer comments like some of these other channels.
Hey, you know what? Even if we do get there someday,
we'll still answer your question.
All right, guys. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. Thanks for hanging in there with us. Catch you next time.
See you guys.